I think we'll get this show on the road. Welcome to our special city council meeting tonight, May 19th. We are live here at the Mill and also broadcasting on YouTube for folks that can't be here in the room tonight. Thank you all for joining us. We have a great agenda ahead of us. I'm going to call this meeting to order and I'd ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flags of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Chellan, could we get a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Araya.
Here.
Councilmember McManus.
Present.
Councilmember Donahue.
Present.
Councilmember Shipman.
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad.
Present.
Councilmember Edwards.
Present.
Councilmember Packard.
Here.
Thank you. Council, we have an agenda before you. There's been one request for an addition, an executive session at the end of our agenda for 15 minutes regarding property sale. There's no action to follow. I'm looking for a motion to pass the agenda with that addition.
Pass the agenda as written with the addition of the 15 minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Any opposed? Great. We will move right into guest business. We have two great presentations tonight. I would first like to welcome Tina Mandela from Volunteers of America to talk about the Resource Center.
Thank you for having us today, Council and Chair Mayor. We appreciate you. I put together a little PowerPoint for everyone to see. So really, I just wanted to introduce VOA and Lake Stevens Community Resource Center to all of you. And I am the operations director for the Community Resource Centers. This is our executive director, Amanda Etchie. And many of you know Elizabeth Miller, who is our site director that works on site here in Stevens. And she's on PTO. Good for her. A lot of good work. So next slide, please. I just want to share a little bit of who we are and what we're doing within our community of Lake Stevens. Our mission, first of all, is to empower people and strengthen communities in need. Our vision is to build healthy, safe communities where all people enjoy sufficient and fulfilled lives. And that should be the dream goal of us here. Next slide, please. Community resource centers and what we do. So we're one-stop shop hubs for families and individuals who are facing crisis, and we're here to help them meet their basic needs. We provide emergency food, hygiene items, clothing, diapers, wipes, formula, case management on site, assistance with employment opportunities, job referrals. We have a job assistance center on site, housing assistance with our housing navigator, rental and utility assistance when funding, of course, we have funding for it, application assistance with DSHS, healthcare, housing, etc. Really helping families navigate those systems that we all know can be very tough. Next slide, please. Okay, just a little bit of history of Lake Stevens Community Resource Center under Volunteers of America. We actually have been in this community for well over 20 years. We used to be right here on this property in the little green house, if you remember us. And then VOA came in and we've been very blessed to be under that umbrella. So in 2021, we came back into this community. The need was seen and they reached out to us and seeing the work that we have done in the past for the people of our community. So in 2021, January, we opened our doors. We rented a little space there at the church down the street, Lake Church, which is no longer there. Then we moved to Holy Cross. We were there for a year. In the last 3 years, we've been housed with the food bank, which has been absolutely phenomenal, and our reach has grown still very much. Our hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are appointment based, but we do take in walk-ins on an emergency basis. And then Friday, we work remote, where we can meet people in the community who may have transportation barriers. We can meet them where they are. In 2021, when we opened our doors, we served, and that was at the height of the pandemic. We reached 3,055 individuals for a total of 1,216 families served. Here, and I'm reading these numbers, I'm going back, so I want you to see how things have changed in time. 2022, we served 2,158 individuals for a total of 801 families. 2023, 1,993 for a total of 703 families. 24, 3,230 8 individuals, almost doubling our impact for a total of 1,188 families. In 2025, 4,543
Wow.
individuals served in 1,612 families. The need is there and it's growing. It's not just COVID. That's in the past now. Now we're looking at inflation in all areas, food, utilities, gas just to get to work. We served 500 more families served in the previous year. That's the highest number that we've served since we opened our door. We are a staff of 5. LSCRC, we saw 224 families in 2025 who stated they've never used social services before. Our impact is huge. People that we are serving, they deserve to have us there, and we are honored to serve people in Lake Stevens who need us. Next slide, please. So for the fun stuff. So some of our annual events that we do, I've seen many of you there, to be quite honest. We have our Mother's Day card frenzy. We do cards, handprints, seed packets, and flowers. We coordinate that with food bank hours, so we're reaching everyone. We saw over 100 little ones come and put paint to their hand and on cards for whoever's playing that role in their life, mom, dad, grandparents, whoever's playing that role. Our back to school celebration, which is very phenomenal. I believe we served 416 students this year in the Lake Stevens School District, providing backpacks and all school supplies. We do reach out to every school in the district and request their supply list, and we fulfill it completely. We'll talk about that later. Creative kiddos, we provide paintbrushes, canvases, popsicle sticks, treats, aprons, markers, and positive childhood memories. And we also invite Sherwood Community Services for some support there. We have a birthday program where we provide gifts, birthday cakes, decorations, 2 gifts per family. And we did 220 families in Lake Stevens in 2025, so that was pretty phenomenal. Believe our annual holiday toy drive. In the last 2 years, we're now in partnership with the Lake Stevens Food Bank, and that's just a magical time for all of us. Police department comes, Lake Stevens Sewer District, the library, so many different businesses in our community come together so we can provide this for families. And the newest one that we started this October was the Boo Tea, where families can come and get Halloween costumes for their children. So that's good times. Next slide, please. All right, a little bit more about our back to school celebration. So in 2025, we served 416 youth during the day of our back to school event, which is held at Caballero Cliff High. We provided lunch to all attendees, and that was through the Lake Stevens Food Bank. So no one went hungry that day. No one had to worry about pulling $1 out of their pocket. Everyone was fed. I love that. So this event brought together, I was able to bring in 23 different community resources that served people of Lake Stevens. We had Boys and Girls Club, we had the Boy Scouts, we had PUD giving on-site discounts, bill discounts. We just had so many different organizations and resources. It was absolutely wonderful. And we also had photography department for you to come in and take family photos. So I thought that was really neat to be able to provide that. One grandparent had come up to me and said, thank you so much. The stress that takes away off their back really meant a lot to her. And this is the grandparent in our community raising 2 grandchildren. And so it was nice to hear that, and this made my heart smile a bit. You know, it's that real human interaction. So next slide, please. Holiday Toy Drive 2025, we held it right here. Every year we do it in the Target parking lot. Rain or shine or snow, that's the truth. And if we don't have snow, we bring the snow. It's a pretty great event. We served 260 children this season out of the Lake Stevens Community Resource Center. That's 5 gifts per child, all brand new gifts. Wrapping paper for the parents, bows, tape, stockings, all of the above. And that's what community does. They come together in trying times and make sure no child goes without. So really believing in that magic of Christmas and bringing it to our community. And we couldn't do it without everyone that's part of that, all the volunteers. Creative kiddos and our Mother's Day card frenzy. I already talked a bit about the Mother's Day card frenzy. We just had that one a couple weeks ago. Great times. There was my team out there with some of the kiddos. We were able to give stuffed animals, a flower, and the card prints for their mom. We had people coming through with their dogs. It was awesome. Doing dog prints, great stuff. Creative Kiddos, it was a pipe dream of mine. It's an opportunity for kids, who are living with disabilities, intellectual and physical, to come together before school starts, to increase their social, nonverbal, fine motor skills, listening and speech skills in a safe and comfortable environment. And I just got picked up by a winery who's going to display all of their art for donation, so we can keep that program going and it can carry itself. So this year was our third year, and we're just super, super proud of it. This is the event that we invite Sherwood to come, to have resources there for the families as well, so they know how to advocate for themselves. All right, next slide, please. It does take a village, we all know that. City of Lake Stevens, thank you. Thank you for your support through the years and seeing the work that we do in our communities. There's a ton of them up there, Lake Stevens Lion Club, Rotary, Lake Stevens Brewing Company, they pulled a box there for us for our Christmas giveaway. Lake Stevens Food Bank, Seropolis recognized us for empowering young women. We've hired now 3 different teen moms from our teen parenting group. I couldn't be more proud of that. They're making a livable wage and they're making a change in the community. One day they're gonna be in my seat. So that's what we need to do. These are the people we want to invest our time in. So yeah, I'm really proud of that group. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're seeing a growing number of families, as I mentioned earlier, who reported never having used social services before. In 2025, we saw 224 families, individuals. I mean, most families in Lake Stevens that we're seeing are families of 3 or 4. So we're seeing the effects of limited community funding and the shortage of livable wage jobs and the ongoing challenges of job insecurity and layoffs continue to be felt throughout Lake Stevens. We saw it happen with Boeing last year. And when people came in for help, we helped them. We were right there walking side by side with them until they were able to go back to work. You never know what tomorrow looks like for any of us. And that's one great thing about the Community Resource Center. You need the help, our doors are open. As the cost of housing, food and utilities and other day expenses continue to rise while average incomes remain stagnant, it's becoming increasingly difficult for many to get by. Now more than ever, we must continue to stand ready to serve all members of our community, all members, because life happens and no one should face it alone. For every dollar spent on CRCs, there's an average savings of $4.93. That's information that I received from the National Family Support Network. Behind every dollar saved is a neighbor who avoided eviction, kept utilities on, accessed food, or received support before reaching a crisis point, and that's what we're trying to do. We want to be proactive instead of reactive, and that's how we continue to keep people going every single day. These services strengthen the entire community, not just the people we serve, but the entire community. Investing in these services is both compassionate and fiscally responsible. Okay. So your Lake Stevens CRC continues to grow in order to respond to the needs of our growing community, and it's growing every day. It's absolutely stunning, but we are growing and the need's gonna grow at the same time. We've tripled our staff, we've expanded our reach to vulnerable households, and have stepped in to support the community's largest social service events in the city of Lake Stevens. Next slide, please. So we thank you. Support from the City of Lake Stevens has been an integral to our growth in the community. We are serving more people and families because of this partnership. With this partnership, we've been able to open new doors to further our sustainabilities. Investing in our services means helping families now and in the future. We're helping people in crisis and building their resiliency. And at the same time, we're building the resiliency of our community. We thank you. This supports critical staffing, operation costs, as well as unrestricted emergency funds to support families and their children in their most dire times. Next slide. It's my favorite slide, the future. The future is right there. So the young lady to the left is actually a volunteer from Lake Stevens High School. Miss Elizabeth Miller is in the center there. That's our site director. And then there's me. And then we have the 4 little ones that came to actually our Mother's Day Card Frenzy event that we had. And just some contact information there. Reach out. if you guys know anyone who's in need, give them our information, send them our way. That's what we're there for. We're there to help. Next slide. It's the easiest one of all. Thank you. Thank you so very much for your time. I've also given our annual report for 2025. Council members, every month, I send out a impact report. I'm very transparent with where our dollars go, where the support is being given in the community. And I share a success story for the month of a client that has been served. What you'll see on our annual report is 3 separate success stories that we had in 2025. 2025, we served 4,543 participants, households. That was equivalent to 1,612. Direct assistance that was dispersed into the community was $77,044. And we fielded over 2,707 phone calls to people that just need to be heard and have a safe place to come to. So really, I just wanted to introduce us to you. Please come by. You know where we're at. You're more than welcome at any time. Any of you, not just the council, but all of you. Come by and see us. And I hope that what I was able to share today really just sticks with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a privilege to be in our community and watch the Community Resource Center evolve over the last several years, and Director Mandela's leadership and just energy around this work is contagious, and I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. Thank you. Moving to our next guest business item, I would like to invite Snow Isle Library up to the podium. Thanks.
Thank you, council members. My name is Eric Howard. I'm the executive director of Snow Isle Library. And what we thought we would do today is just sort of take you through and zoom out around the whole big picture of our library system, which exists in both Snohomish County and Island County as well. And today, if we could, let's just the next one. So this is just a broad picture of where we are located. We have 23 libraries. And we also have a very robust bookmobile service. So one of the functions of a lot of the work that we do is reaching into daycare centers, early learning centers, and then also senior centers, places where geographically they're not too connected to a branch. And this is something that we're taking a deeper and deeper dive into around early education in particular. Because when you think about it, schools are really positioned to be around, or schools are really there to support the pre-K to 12th graders, but that period of time in our lives when the brains are really exploding, that 0 to 5 period, there is no significant organized entity other than the public library. And so we did our first early education conference. One of the things that is not often recognized about public libraries in Washington is that we work through the state to credential daycare centers, through workers there. And so we provide that education, the credentialing, but then we're also there with the books. So that is something that we're taking a deeper and deeper dive into. And if you could, these are the areas that we are really leaning into for this year. And one thing that we'll probably be hearing from us more and more on is our strategic planning process. I believe that we are doing a very healthy and strong job for the community, but I also believe that we can always do a better job. So we are reaching out right now to find out what we can do. I will say this, we are, throughout the 23 libraries, more excited now than we probably have ever been. You know why? Down the road, not too far away, we're building a new library. And it is getting close to completion. And I really am also here just to say thank you for the partnership that you have had with us for a very long time, with the library, also just down the road, and through the partnership that we have going forward with the library. I'm also really excited that we have your community library here in Amphnet. It's going to talk a little bit about that move that we're doing. And I was also I promised some staff that I wanted to throw in a pitch so that when we do move, anybody that's ever moved, you know how stressful that can be. And it never really lands right on time. And so we're moving, not only items from the library down the road, but also because this building is significantly larger than our current size, it's gonna triple the size of the collection. And that's good news for the entire system. I was in Clinton yesterday. And I was sharing on Whidbey and sharing with them this success story here. And the reason why, and I'm gonna nerd out on you a little bit, is because the larger our buildings are, the larger the collection we can provide for the entire system. So if you're in Clinton and you have a relatively small library, you benefit significantly when we expand anywhere in the system, because we share all of the books across the entire system. So, and that also goes for residents here too. If you don't find the item among the 23,000 items that we have in the new library, it's somewhere in our system, whether it's up in Darrington or in Oak Harbor. We provide those books for you and we turn it around really quickly too for our service. So I just wanted to mention that, but the whole point of saying that was my long-winded way of saying, once we close down this library to move into the next one, I've experienced this in other systems I've worked in, when we open a new library, we'll see it open and they're like, why is this not open to the public yet? And it's because it takes a lot of energy and time, 23,000 books. So to get that set up so that it's working, there will be a period of time. So it's just sort of a forewarning, might hear some complaints. Why is this not open to the public yet? We're moving as quickly as we possibly can. We are more excited than we can possibly say about this. So I just wanted to mention that, just pass that on after that. And if you could please report that part, and maybe one more. So last year in 2025, when I was discussing with our board, what are we going to be focusing on in 2026? We zeroed in on a couple of key areas. One that I mentioned at the beginning, which is the strategic plan, and that's really critically important for us to figure out how can we continue to evolve. The second one, of course, is opening Lake Stevens. We have a number of capital projects that we're also leaning into that will follow Lake Stevens. Of the 23 libraries that we have, there's one library that does not have air conditioning. And so when we talk about being a resiliency center, during smoke events, heat events, to be honest about that, we have to have all 23 have air conditioning and a really strong HVAC system. So beginning in 2027, we will begin to redo the Arlington Library. It's the one library, 23 libraries that doesn't have it. So we're going to be doing a remodel out there. The other one is the Mariner project. So we purchased land from money that we got from the state. And so we intend to build a new library there as well. It's one of the most densely populated communities in Washington state, but it's considered a library desert. And just like Lake Stevens, as it expands, we'll be helping out the rest of the 22 libraries. That will be the same for Mariner, because then we'll have a much larger space, we'll have more books there, and everybody will benefit from that. The other big project for us, we are at the end of the life for the levy. The last time we went out for it was in 2018. And so we are restricted, as I'm sure maybe you're aware, by state law. We can't increase our budget from property taxes more than 1% from the previous year. And since inflation is greater than 1%, books are much more than that too. We will need to go back to restore the levy, and so that's going to be on the ballot in August to restore it back to what it was in 2018, which was 47 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. In Snohomish County, the average property owner pays less than 5% for the library, which, when you kind of consider the investment that we make in early education, it is a really significant deal. We're just talking about what we provide the community for early education, but we know, as you know, we do much more than that. And Antoinette's going to talk a little bit about it. So,
I think that's.
but that's it. It's okay. So that's a good spot for the stop.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's good to see you again. Pop quiz time. I was here a couple months ago, and the big theme for that 5-minute quick presentation, which I'm sure you all absolutely remember, was that the Lake Stevens Library is a community-driven library. We respond to community needs, but we have the resources of this large system. So as Eric was just saying, you know, we have 23 libraries, our collection is going to triple. Of those 23 libraries, the current Lake Stevens Library is at 5,000 square feet, is one of the smallest in the system. Our collection is one of the smallest in the system. But we have the 7th highest circulation of children's books of any library.
Wow.
So knowing that our collection is going to triple in size, we know that that need, that desire, that increase in circulation is gonna happen too. And we're really excited to be able to invest in that need here in Stevens. I want to thank Councilmember Shipman for coming and touring the library. It was wonderful to get to show her all of our plans for this amazing space. The library is beautiful. There's one very small picture there. And we're really looking forward to welcoming everyone in the community to the grand opening. Just as soon as we get every single one of those 23 shelved. And in order, right? You gotta be able to find it. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the ways that the Lake Stevens Library specifically has been responding to community needs here. So last time I talked a little bit about memory care kits. During that time, we were loaning some of our memory care kits, which we developed in partnership with the Alzheimer's Association. We loaned them to the Oak Harbor Library. The program was so successful there that Oak Harbor is adding 12 of their own kits. So Lake Stevens was able to pilot this project. It was developed by our own librarian, Kelly Jade. She formed a partnership. We developed the program in response to needs that we were seeing in the community from caregivers who needed that support for folks with memory care issues in their own homes. We also have the highest number of student card usage in the entire library system. 95% of Lake Stevens School District students have activated their student card. That's super high. That's crazy high. And a lot of that is the work of our librarians who are going into the schools, supporting our educators. And that's not the work that you see, right? You come into the library, we're there, we're checking out the books, we're putting stuff on hold. Behind the scenes, we're doing the outreach, we're connecting with Tina and her team, we're at the backpack events. We have the Boys and Girls Club coming, the bookmobile coming to the Boys and Girls Club this summer. So really, there's a lot of work that we're doing in the community that's not visible, but has huge, huge impact. The last thing I wanted to pitch, because it's super popular and it's a beautiful time right now, we just launched a seed library. We launched the seed library at the end of March, so it's been open for less than 2 months. We have already distributed over 100 packets of seeds. People are coming in, you don't have to have a library card, but we absolutely encourage you to get one, help me out. Make it look good in front of the boss, gotta get that library card. But 100 packets of seeds, and we're encouraging folks to plant an extra row for the food bank. So just one more way that through something that's fun and exciting and new and cool, we can also contribute and improve the local community. We're very, very excited for our grand opening later this year. We thank you all for your patience and grace and understanding. And really look forward to welcoming you all there on our grand opening day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Any
Yep.
questions? We're good.
I just want to say I got a sneak peek and oh boy, is it beautiful. I mean, I didn't share any pictures or anything because I don't want to ruin your great, your big reveal. But seriously, it is gorgeous and huge. And one thing you didn't mention that for me, I mean, we use your mobile library. So our preschool and pre-Kers, every other month, their guest speaker is from the library. And so their circle time's done by one of the librarians. Amazing, amazing program. And the whole bottom floor, if I understand right, is going to be for children. And then the teens are upstairs, if I remember correctly. So much thought has gone into this. And oh boy, are people going to be excited when they see it?
Yeah, that first floor is going to be completely dedicated to early literacy, to children's services, which will be great for those who want a quiet second floor. But also great because it gives us the opportunity to cultivate that learning through play. We're already exploring so many ideas for interactive elements, for outdoor exploration, to really use the native wetlands and the opportunity to teach and learn about that. We're just so excited. We're already, the librarians, the library associates have developed so many great ideas. We've been working on this for a year, and we're really excited to be in a purpose-built library, which will be the first purpose-built library the city of Lake Stevens has ever experienced. And I think once you see what a library that is built to be a library can do, it'll really, really be impressive.
So it's also the first one that the system has built in over 20 years, and the very first one that's 2 stories. So we are, as a system, we are super excited.
It's very exciting. Please, when you know when the grand opening is going to be, come back here and we'll help you spread the word. We're all very excited.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now move into citizen comments. We have regular public comments, and then we have a few comments specific to the public hearing. So we're not going to do the public hearing comments now. We're just going to do general public comments. So I'll call your name. You'll have 3 minutes up at the podium to speak your mind. We're first going to start online and see if we have anyone online who would like to give public comment tonight.
I do have some people attending, so let me just make another announcement. If you are online on our Zoom meeting and you'd like to speak to the council on general citizen comments, not public hearing, please raise your digital hand. I am not seeing anything.
All right. Well, then I'll start with my green sheets in front of me. The first one I have is John Short. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
So, this past week, we actually had a vote for a salmon natural resource over at Lake Stevens Woods HOA. And we passed it where we were going to not have a covered bridge. Basically, just a natural resource for the bridge. But then it was switched back over by Lake Stevens that there would be a bridge anyway. One of the things that we were concerned about there was the attraction of youth at night. And if they're creating this natural resource so a salmon could swim through. Honestly, I was a teenager once, and if I was hanging out in the woods, it's gonna be a big garbage collection back there, which would then go into the streams, which would then affect the salmon. We asked for a gate to be put on the end of Great Road, so it eliminates a lot of the traffic coming in. And I just wanted to come up and voice my concerns about that. I think it could lead into a problem area, and it backs behind the lighthouse there. So think about if it was behind your house. Would you want kids hanging out in your woods, partying all night in the dark? That's it. We just wanted to make a voice saying, eliminate the bridge if you could, and just make it a natural resource where people won't be hanging out or trying to ride a bike over the bridge. Okay,
Great. Thank you.
thank you for your time.
The next name I see is Bruce. Is it Wolverton? Wolverton. Thank you so much. You have 3 minutes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm president of the HOA over at Lake Stevens Woods, and I'd like to say thank you so much for the work you guys have done in our ponds and the runoff and stuff like that to clear out the woods that have basically grown up in the middle of them, the weeds, and just make it a lot more useful for the runoff water to get out and back into the stream. Also, I'd like to thank you for the reconsideration of the parks. We had been responsible for the financial responsibility of the park there at Bryce Park. And I was notified this week by your parks director that you guys are now taking that part over. And so I'd like to say thank you for that. Back to what John was saying. We did get together with the HOA, and we had a meeting. We met with the streams people. We met a couple of people that actually worked with the city of Lake Stevens with ponds and runoff water, and had a great meeting. And we were encouraged to have a vote on whether to have a bridge, whether not to have a bridge, or whether just to let it be. Well, most of the people, in fact, everybody there was hoping for no bridge. And I do understand that a bridge would be necessary to make the development with the stream and salmon to get up there. And that's one thing we all want. But as John was saying, the issue, I think that if we could get a gate or something like that, that comes in off that old service road that used to be in there off of Great Road, I think would be a great deterrent for whoever is coming in. And we just had a couple break-ins of the cars where people are going through, and then people are finding the wallets and the stuff that are taken from the car out on that little trail that leads back over to Great Road. Another thing with the road to or that trail that leads to Great Road is that you have a lot of little kids that are riding their bicycles back there. Well, they ride out onto Great Road, they get ahead of their parents or whatever. And because, you know, if you put in the bridge, it's gonna be a great spot for the kids to go play. There is no sidewalks on Great Road there, and so, I think that having a gate in there, I've been talking to Shannon from the county or from the city here, and, you know, she was saying that, you know, a gate wasn't really permissible, but, that's really not a trail that, has always been used. I mean, nobody but the people in our community actually use it unless there's somebody coming in at night to do, whatever. You know, they seem to be taking advantage of that. And so I'd like to just see it get blocked off. And if the city had keys to it, you know, that way they could get in there, they could service that, you know, whatever it is they need to service in there. But I just think it.
Bruce, we're at 3 minutes. Thank
most
you.
people would be happy with that. Some sort of security, if not, just not doing it for.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciated. The last name I have is Tyler Rhodes.
I'm also a member of the neighborhood, Lake Stevens Woods. I'm not on the HOA board, but I did attend the meeting that we had last week to discuss the remediation of this fish barrier and the construction of bridge to replace concrete bridges that are currently there. The consensus of our community was that we would like the remediation to continue. We care about our safety. But nobody is in favor of building a bridge to replace the concrete bridges that are in place. The reasons being the main road is rather unsafe. There are no sidewalks on it on Great Road. The path leads right up to it. If the stream were remediated and then removed, that would remove a big danger. Other people have expressed concerns for contributing to the middle. And also, I know that some of my neighbors recently had their cars broken into and found their effects screened out on that trail. So maybe it is an avenue for criminals to enter the community. But I think more than anything, we would like to have a voice in the construction projects happening in our community. We did vote enough to kind of trigger a more official vote by email, since we didn't have a quorum at this meeting. But you know, sort of immediately after we were told that the city was just going to go ahead with building the bridge, and I think that's upset a lot of folks. We would like to be able to vote on the construction projects in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, the next item on our agenda, we will be reopening 2 public hearings. Before we do that, we have our city legal advisor, Greg, is going to share a few words with us, and then Russ and David have some information to share about these public hearings.
Okay, I want to just discuss a couple of concepts that are related to the 2 public hearings. They both involve what we call quasi judicial decision making, as opposed to legislative decision making. With respect to making your decisions, with respect to the respective rezone request, you're expected to be impartial. Right? You're supposed to make your decision based upon the information that has been provided to you in the hearing record that came from the hearing examiner. If you look at the hearing examiner's reports, there's a list of exhibits. Those exhibits, that's your hearing record. The information in those, as well as the testimony that was given at the hearings. With that, these hearings are closed record, which means, and we do that because under Washington law, there can only be one public hearing on a development application. Only one is permitted. So we hold that hearing before the city's hearing examiner, who collects the evidence, receives it, and makes an initial recommendation to you based upon their reading of the Lake Stevens Municipal Code with respect to the evidence received at that hearing. Your decision is to be based upon that hearing record. When we held our hearing tonight, people could comment. They can make comments to you regarding the recommendations. But they can't bring in, say, I've got this new study, we've discovered since the hearing that this is happening on these properties or whatever. That will not be permitted because under the closed record hearing rules. Because it's quasi judicial and you're supposed to act like judges, this comes under the spectrum of Washington's appearance of fairness doctrine. Okay, and it's a statutory doctrine that says when you're making these sort of quasi judicial decisions, you need to be impartial, not only in fact, but you need to have the appearance of being an impartial body. Because of that, I have a few questions to ask of each of you, and then we'll have one question for the for the audience. So the questions to you as a panel are these: is there any member of this council that has discussed the subject matter of this public hearings with any proponent of the rezones or opponent of the rezone?
Do you want us,
Okay.
do you want us to answer individually or
No,
just shake our heads? or-
Well, if you have, yes.
Okay.
Then, and you have then an opportunity under the appearance of fairness doctrine, if you've had that discussion, to explain the discussion and what the substantive was, to demonstrate there was nothing said or done in that conversation that would demonstrate that you're prejudiced or have pre-decided the issue. But we have to ask that particular question. Second question, do any of you have any financial or personal interest in the outcome of the proceeding? Okay, don't see anyone in that. Do any of you live on the property or in the near vicinity of the property?
No.
Okay. Do any of you believe that you have any special knowledge outside the hearing record that would or could cause you to prejudice the outcome of your decision making? That is, that you would be considering that information rather than what's in the hearing record. Okay, nobody's negative to that. And is there any general question? Is there any member of the council who believes that he or she cannot sit and hear the matter fairly and impartially, both as to the respective positions of the proponents and the opponents of this proceeding? Anyone?
No.
Okay. And then the question for our audience: is there any one in the audience who, because of the state's appearance of fairness doctrine, wishes to disqualify any member of the council from sitting in the hearing on this matter? Anyone? Okay, this is your one chance. If you have the chance and you don't object, you can't bring it up later. The courts have said if you didn't do it, you didn't let them know, we don't want to hear it. Okay, so it sounds like that we've gone through that. Unless there's any questions, we can go ahead and open the hearing and the first hearing.
Great.
Start.
All right. So the first hearing on the agenda is the Ripperger rezone, and it's a continued public hearing, so that is now open. And I would like to turn it over to Russ to provide some additional information.
Okay, Thank you, City Council. For the record, Russ Wright, Community Development Director for the City of Lake Stevens. Before I go into the hearing itself, I want to just add a few more comments about how the agenda usually flows. So as part of this closed record hearing, there will be a staff presentation. That's essentially a review of the record and the recommendation of the hearing examiner. Then you would move into your public comment portion. The applicant would go first, and then the rest of the public comment would follow. And as already stated, the public comment should be just a summary of prior comments that have been entered into the record, not new information. Point out for the record, some cities don't even allow that. And the issue comes up from RCW 3670B 050. Again, that is just the act that our city attorney was talking about a little bit earlier for the appearance of fairness and one open record hearing. And then at the end of the public comment portion, council can reserve that time to ask questions of staff or the applicant. If they need clarification, you would close the hearing, you would go into your deliberation, make a motion, and then make your decision. So with that, I am going to share my screen, and I have prepared a brief presentation for this evening. Come on. Okay, there we go. So we're going to start tonight with the Rippiger rezone. This is under City Land Use File, LUA 2026-0006. This is an application submitted by Land Pro Group on behalf of KNA LLC. And there are 6 properties located off of 99th Avenue Southeast. And together, they're approximately 9.2 acres. The property currently has a comprehensive plan land use designation of high density residential. And there is no proposed change to the land use designation. And under that land use designation, there are several zoning districts that can implement that land use designation. The existing and the proposed zoning district both comply with that land use designation as implementing zones. So the current zoning is multifamily residential. That zoning was adopted in 2024 as part of the city's comprehensive plan update. The proposed zoning would take it back to R812, which is a single-family residential zone. On the right side of the screen, you see a general vicinity. It shows the parcels that are under consideration, and it also identifies the different land uses in vicinity. So you'll see higher density residential single-family neighborhoods to the north and across the street to the west. The properties to the south are currently zoned multifamily residential, even though they are currently have low-intensity land use designations. The properties to the east have what's called mixed-use neighborhood and consist of a dense townhome development that could allow for some commercial space as well. Okay, so again, I just want to talk about what site-specific rezones are quickly and then delve into the process. So site-specific rezones, they are type 5 permits with a hearing examiner review held at an open public hearing, and the hearing examiner provides that recommendation to the city council. The public hearing was held on March 26th. There was a reconsideration request on April 23rd, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So one of the things to keep in mind, rezones are what you would call a non-project action. So they're exempted from some types of review. For example, under state statute, a site-specific rezone doesn't have to go through the State Environmental Policy Act, because again, if you look at what we talked about earlier, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan zone, so you don't have to really review new parameters at that stage. You review the parameters at the future development stage. That's where your technical review takes place, such as your SEPA analysis, your transportation concurrency, looking at other development standards. As noted, City Council makes the final decision at the end of the hearing, relying on the information in the record. So Council did open the hearing back on April 28th. As mentioned, there had been a request for reconsideration for the hearing examiner to look at a couple of technical points on the related application for Dawson. So the hearing was held over until May 19th, which is tonight. So going through the process, I won't read everything on the slide in the right, but it just illustrates for you that the city has followed the process, gone through the steps of noticing the application, holding the public meetings, having the public hearing, and it notes the kind of citizen participation that occurred. There were 16 individuals that submitted comments. Most of the commenters did support returning the zoning to R812 with some specific comments really related to perceived compatibility with existing neighborhoods to return that to a single family use. One of the commenters questioned if the proposal was consistent with the rezone criteria and with the development agreement. The proposal is a little bit nonlinear because different activities were happening at different times. Just want to spend one slide talking about the development agreement. So the City Council did approve a development agreement at the end of last year with the applicant. This came in specifically tied to the Dawson project, but as the request was related to a density transfer with the Rippinger process, both applications were tied into the development agreement, and both applications were required as part of that development agreement to go through this rezone process to show consistency with the criteria before any development applications could move forward. And the staff report that was provided with the development agreement went through some of those findings that relate to the development agreement, as well as the zone capacity for the city as we look at our growth targets. Okay, so this is just a summary of general ideas of what is included in the hearing examiner's decision and some of the factors we look at. So when you look at site-specific rezones, you have to show that it complies with the comprehensive plan, and in this case, also with the associated sub-area plan. Those items are described in the hearing examiner's report in detail. It has to be compliant with the Growth Management Act, including growth targets, and those things are also covered in the hearing examiner's report and the staff recommendation. It has to show that it advances the public health, safety, and welfare. And this really just relates to that, again, back to its consistency with the comprehensive plan. And is it able to meet those levels of service that the council has established, which is different from the project-specific issues that I mentioned before, such as traffic, walkability, critical areas, other topics. Those happen at the development review, so at a later stage of the process. And then we look at, is the amendment warranted due to changes in circumstance? And in this case, the development agreement shows that change in circumstance. We also need to, again, make sure that there is adequate area. So can the proposal develop in the site? Will it be detrimental? Can it happen under the current city regulations? Is there adequate existing or planned infrastructure for the site? And are there any impacts that will need to be mitigated? So, and then in this case, we're also looking at consistency with the planned action that was adopted. So that was the SEPA threshold, the environmental threshold adopted with the sub-area plan. Is it going to exceed the thresholds of that plan, or can that be mitigated? So that is something also that was taken into consideration. And so again, the hearing examiner looked at all of these factors in the decision, and any materials in the staff report are really just sort of a summary of these actions and setting the stage for what you're considering tonight. And again, most of that is all of that's included in the written record in your packet. So again, this is just a high-level summary. The hearing examiner did find that the proposed rezone satisfied the approval criteria found in the municipal code requirement, and it should be improved. It was found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. It meets the intent of the zoning district. It directs new growth to areas where infrastructure and services are available or planned. It does demonstrate a change in circumstance. And as conditioned, it will meet the city standards at the time of development. So those are those phase 2 things we've talked about. And it has met the procedural requirements, including public participation. So after the council takes comment from the proponent and from interested parties, and for the council's benefit, I have provided the council president with a list of parties of records that can provide comment tonight. So the staff would recommend that the city council adopt the hearing examiner's recommendation and approve the rezone. Again, LUA 2026-0006, subject to the conditions of approval by the hearing examiner. And then the second action would be for the council to adopt ordinance 1218, rezoning the Ripperger property from MFR to R812. And so with that, I'll yield back to the council.
Thank you, Director Wright. Would it be preferable to, if there's any questions, to ask those now or to wait until after public comment?
The council can proceed as they choose, but I think it would be at least appropriate to wait to hear from the proponent before posing any technical questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Then we will move into the public comment portion of this closed record hearing on the Ripperger parcel. I would like to invite the applicant to speak first if there is any information that he'd like to share. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Mayor Council, thanks for the closed record hearing tonight on the proposed rezone for the Ripperger property. My name is Ryan Larson, Larsen. I work for Land Pro Group and I'm the applicant's representative. The request before City Council tonight is to review the proposed rezone of the Ripperger property located on 99th Street to make a decision on proposed ordinance 1218. I would like to state in the beginning that we have read the original staff report prepared by David Levitan for the hearing examiner and supported staff's recommendation of approval to the hearing examiner. Also, I have thoroughly read the hearing examiner's decision and support the hearing examiner's recommendation of approval to the City Council. Finally, I have thoroughly read David Levitan's recommendation to City Council tonight and support the recommendation of approval of ordinance 1218 approved for approval by City Council. The Ripperger property is part of a developer agreement approved by City Council and recorded with the Snohomish County Auditor's Office. Under section 2 of the developer agreement refers to the rezone application process. This section reads as follows. It's section 2, which states rezone applications to give effect of the agreement. The SLR property will submit a rezone application for the SLR property pursuant to Lake Stevens Municipal Code 1416C 090. Such application shall require a rezone of the SLR property from R812 to MFR. The KNN property will submit a rezone application for the KNN property pursuant to Lake Stevens Municipal Code 14C 090. Such application shall request rezone of the KNN property from MFR to R812, which is the rezone you're hearing tonight, right now. In addressing the decision, criteria in LMC, like Stevens Municipal Code 1416C 090G, each rezone application shall demonstrate that the proposal will not negatively impact the city's ability to meet its adopted 2044 growth target at all income levels and associated housing types. Provided the rezone applications are consistent with this agreement, they shall be given all due consideration given the mutual promises, benefits, and obligations set forth herein. If either of the both rezone applications are denied, KNA and SLR may, in their sole discretion, terminate this agreement effectively immediately by recording notice of the same with the reference of this provision. It is my opinion and supported by the hearing examiner to the City Council and recommendation to City Council that the proposed rezone should be approved on the consistency with section 2 of the developer agreement, the city council, the city of Lake Stevens municipal code for rezone applications, and the findings and conclusions of the hearing examiner's recommendation to the city council. With that, I thank you for your consideration of these matters.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. I have two public comment green sheets here. I have confirmed that they are both parties of record for the Ripperger rezone. So I'd like to ask Sally Jo Sebring to the podium.
Mayor Dorset, if you said this, I'm sorry. Are these 3-minute comments?
3-minute comments. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you for clarifying. You have 3 minutes. Yes.
I just see, I live on 99th Avenue Southeast, south of the Ripperger. I've lived there for a long time, so I know how to pronounce the name. I'm just gonna take a snippet. Hopefully you read the whole packet. It has lots of comments in there, in both packets, but I'm just gonna read a snippet of a comment I made in the surely a development agreement that hinges on a rezone cannot then be used as a supporting argument for the rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. The second name I have here is Spencer Brown. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Spencer Brown. I'm an HOA board member at Eagle Glen, which is a community which is just north of this rezone. And since essentially the community's inception, we've had quite a bit of development next to us. We've had an apartment complex put in, had some townhomes put in, and now, barring this rezone, there may be some more multi-family homes. So I'm here to represent not only myself, but 122 other homeowners within my community. One thing that we are hoping to do is to support the rezone and have it be shifted to single-family homes. There's a couple of reasons that we'd like to do that. The first is that the neighborhood was not meaningfully consulted during the updated comprehensive plan. Next, like I said, 4 apartments and townhomes have been just rolling right next to us, and just getting some semblance of uniformity would be nice. And in addition, the proposed rezone does that fit our community. And then in addition, we ask that you just take the hearing examiner's opinions. They've obviously looked at all the facts and spent a lot of time, on that, and they did recommend that. So with that said, not only myself, but also my community, respectfully ask that you approve this reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Dorset, we have a hand up on our Zoom.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, let me, Dane. You have 3 minutes to speak to the council regarding the closed public hearing for Ripperger. And you need to unmute. Let's see if I can unmute.
I'm not looking to speak. I'm just attending today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's anybody else, since I see other attendees that would like to speak to the council, please raise your digital hand. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody.
Great. Thank you so much for checking. I appreciate it. So that will conclude the public comment portion of the,
Might ask, is there
Oh.
anyone who didn't submit a green sheet?
thank you. Is there anyone that didn't submit a green sheet that would like to speak?
That hasn't?
Thank you. Appreciate it. This moves us to an opportunity for council to ask questions of our,
Would you like to
Step-
close the public comment portion first?
let's do that. Yeah.
Any
First,
rebuttal or from staff or the applicant?
thank you. Does the applicant have any additional comments or rebuttal to public comment? Nothing further? Okay, then we will close the public hearing at this time. And then we will move to council discussion and questions for staff. So the floor is open.
Yes, if I may. If I look at the two properties, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of taking them together since we're discussing one but they're tied, so it kind of feels like there are two sides of the same coin. One of the properties, I think in some of the documents, it was 8 acres, now it's 9.2. So I wanted to make sure one of the properties is 9.2, the other is 2.8. Or is the other 2.1?
The Dawson property that we'll discuss later, it is 9.2, and I was going to point out that
No,
that issue. Excuse me, backwards. Rippager, the current one we're
9.2.
discussing is 9.2, and I'll look at the other one, which is 2 point
Okay.
something.
So is it my understanding that for the one property that's 9.2 acres, the request is to go from about 100, a little over 100 units to 65? And then for the other property that is 3 times smaller, the request is to go from 32 units to 72? Is that how I
That's, yeah,
interpret it?
that's approximate to what's
Okay.
been described, yes.
Okay, that was mine. The other question was one was the comment that the change in circumstance is simply the development agreement that was in December. And is that's the case?
That
The
is,
change in circumstance that prompts the rezoning is the development agreement that was passed in December?
that is one of the considerations of change in circumstance as council deliberated on this issue and those 2 properties and the potential benefits and impacts. Also, what played into this is also changes in state legislation in how we will be looking at densities and the ability to meet our targets in other areas.
And one more question, I guess. From what I reviewed, there was a adequate infrastructure and services to the site or planned infrastructure and services. There is bus service on 99th, and that's where the current zoning for the multifamily is. There's no bus service or planned bus service on South Lake Stevens Road, where we would move the MFR. Is that my understanding?
There is bus service within walking distance, probably quarter mile of this site. That's getting a little bit beyond probably the hearing, but there is bus service in the vicinity of both properties.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
Let me just say that the development agreement reflects a change in circumstances in that it reflects a development proposal for these 2 properties that can only occur with the transfer density between the 2 parties, and the development agreement is simply a reflection of that change of circumstance that did not exist at the time of the original of the last zoning of these 2 parcels. So I don't say the development agreement itself is the change of circumstance. It's the circumstances that are reflected. It's a proposed development and the requirement for the density transfer that's reflected in that agreement that is actually, I think, more accurate statement of the change of circumstance.
So do I understand this correctly, that both have to be adopted and approved, or it can't be done? Like, we can't say yes to one and no to the other. Both have to go through for it to happen, since it is an exchange.
Yeah, I mean, you'll make a separate decision on each one, but unless they're both approved, yeah, the development won't happen.
Okay.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1218 for the Ripperger rezone.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry, get a second, I'm sorry.
There's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we need 2 motions, or do we need one adopting the hearing examiner's recommendation and approve the rezone as well as the ordinance, or can they be put together?
No, well,
It's reflected in the ordinance.
Okay. You just said
Yeah.
recommendation. I just want to make sure we were clear. Okay.
That's the hearing exam.
Okay.
Recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to kind of reiterate from my own knowledge and everyone else here, if we are to vote no on this, essentially we have to point to something in the review criteria where we feel it's deficient and we disagree with the hearing examiner, correct? Okay, so absent some basis in those criteria, we have a choice.
Right. And,
Okay.
the essence of it is that if our code establishes criteria for a rezone and an applicant complies with those criteria, then following our code, the matter should be approved. If there's a deficiency that can be identified in meeting any of the criteria, then that would be a basis for denying the requested rezone in this case. Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah. So if we go ahead and approve this tonight, they still have to go through the same criteria for traffic impact and all that for the site development, or is that?
Right,
already done?
all that would.
That all comes next.
Yes, those issues, yes, would be addressed at a later stage of they get the rezone and that gives them the opportunity to go ahead and proceed with their development
projects.
applicant. But then those traffic and other site-specific issues would be more examined during that process.
Okay.
And you would make your decision whether to.
At a later date on the full fund. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks. Any further questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting ordinance 1218, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank-
I'm opposed.
Okay,
One of those?
one opposed. Motion passes. We will move on to public hearing 7B and continue the public hearing for the Dawson rezone, ordinance 1217. We will go through the same process we just did, although Greg, you don't need to speak again. No, you're good. Okay,
No.
Okay.
But I said apply to.
excellent. I mean, you're welcome to, of course.
I was gonna say, was that a question?
I'm not saying you can't,
And the
but
procedure that Russ outlined for the reference property will also apply here.
Excellent.
With
Thank you.
respect to the Dawson.
excellent. Thank you very much. I will turn the mic over to Russ or David for the.
David's out for a bit, so
Okay.
I'm pinch hitting tonight.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so the next hearing the council will consider is the Dawson rezone. That's city file number LUA 2025-0089. So some similar things to the last application. Land Pro is also the applicant on behalf of the owner, South Lake Ridge LLC. This property is located off of South Lake Stevens Road. The site size is 2.84 acres. Again, the comp plan designation is high density residential. There is no proposed land use change. And the proposed zoning district, as we talked about earlier, can be implemented under this land use designation. So the current zoning is R812. That is a higher density single family zone, and the proposed zoning is MFR. And one thing I'll point out for the record, within single family zones, this single family zone in sub areas, it does allow for more intensive development, including multifamily development. So that does remain an option for this property. Then the information in the box shows different consistencies and the different types of zones and land uses for the site. And you will see a little bit to the west in the brown would be the Rippiger site on the other side of the pink area, which has townhomes and apartments. So I won't spend a lot of time in the blue box. We've talked about what site-specific rezones are, but I will just run through some of the dates quickly. So there was a public hearing held for this project on March 26th. There was a reconsideration that was requested on April 23rd. The hearing examiner reviewed that request for reconsideration and denied the reconsideration on May 4th, 2026. And as we talked about in the prior hearing, council had opened this and moved it to a date certain following the conclusion of the reconsideration. So on the right, again, it just runs through some of the project information. and key dates. Again, I will point out that there were 10 individuals that submitted comments or testified on this project. Some of the concerns were about proposed apartments versus townhomes, and there was concern that there might be potential impacts on traffic and walkability in the area. And then again, there was a question posed if the proposal was consistent with the rezone decision criteria, which became the basis for the reconsideration. Won't spend any time on this. Again, you've already talked about this, that there was a development agreement process that went through in the middle of this rezone process, and council did take action on that in the prior year. Again, there's some specific criteria that rezones are held to. And again, these are redundant to the last slide, so I won't spend any time, just let you take a quick peek at those again. So really, they're just about consistency with the criteria that's outlined in the city's municipal code and making a determination that there's adequate facilities and that the city will have standards in place to mitigate any potential impacts at the time of future development application. So again, like the prior application, the hearing examiner did find that the proposed rezone did satisfy approval criteria found in the municipal code. And again, that it met all of these individual criteria. For the point of the record, I will, as I mentioned earlier, some of the comments in the staff report really are just a summary. And you may hear testimony that there's question when there was language that said non-substantive items were included in the hearing examiner's response, their revised decision. That again is just a phrase. Between the original hearing examiner decision and the revised hearing examiner decision, the hearing examiner added footnotes for clarity. The decision did not change the recommendation, and findings did not change. There was clarification added in footnotes. That's why that language of non-substantive differences was included. But again, with that, the hearing examiner did recommend moving forward to, or made a recommendation for the council to approve this application. And so following that, staff does recommend that the city council follow and adopt the hearing examiner's recommendation and then move to adopt ordinance 1217 after you've heard from the applicant and the public on this proposal. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Director Wright. We will now move into public comment. I would like to invite Mr. Larson to the podium. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for the closed record hearing on the proposed rezone for the Dawson property. My name again is Ryan Larson, LARSEN for the record, and I'm the applicant's representative. The request before the city council tonight is to review the proposed rezone for the Dawson property located on South Lake Stevens Road and to make a decision on proposed ordinance 1217. I would like to state again from my previous record that I've thoroughly read the original staff report prepared by David Levitan for the hearing examiner, supported the staff's recommendation of approval of the hearing examiner. Also read thoroughly the hearing examiner's decision and support the hearing examiner's recommendation of approval to the city council and his reapproval of the reconsideration to the city council. Finally, I have thoroughly read the David Levitan's recommendation to city council, support the recommendation of the approval for ordinance 1217 being approved by council or approval tonight. The Dawson property is part of the developer agreement approved by city council and reported under Snohomish County Powers File. I will not read as I did previously under section 2 the developer agreement that's referring to the rezone. Again, it is my opinion and supported by the hearing examiner's recommendation to the city council and staff's recommendation to the city council that the proposed rezone should be approved based on the consistency with section 2 of the developer agreement, the city of Lake Stevens municipal code for rezone application, and the findings and conclusions of the hearing examiner's recommendation to the city council and the follow-up reconsideration by the decision by the hearing examiner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one green sheet in front of me, so we'll start there, and I would ask Sally Jo to the podium.
With the secret, and I would
the same way. I'm actually gonna, and I, this is a little bit tricky because David Levington, the principal planner, has seen this process all the way through. So he's the one that's most familiar with what happened at the hearing. And so I'm gonna read part of the, from the revised findings, conclusions, and recommendations for the Dawson rezone. This is what first of all, this is testimony of David Levington. This is in her words, in the hearing examiner's words. Planner Levington testified that the city council's approval of the DA was a change of in circumstances warranting a rezone. Below that, so this is on page 12 of 16 of the hearing examiner's revised findings. Under item 13, this is about Ryan Larson's testimony. He testified that in this matter, the reason for the rezone request is a change in circumstances, which is the development agreement approved by the city council. In the hearing examiner's, let me see, on page 15 of 16, on the conclusions, she wrote, the proposed rezone is warranted by changed circumstances, which in this case is the approval of the development agreement, DA, by the city council. And then she's, I'm skipping a few, and she says county staff has a mistake. The county staff determined that this approval is a change in circumstance that would warrant a site-specific rezone. That is the reason that, anyhow, I'm just gonna repeat her words. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the room that would like to give public comment on the Dawson rezone? Kelly, do we have anyone online?
I don't see anybody online, but again, if you'd like to speak to the council regarding the Dawson rezone, if you could raise your digital hand. I'm not seeing anybody.
Thank you. Mr. Larson, do you have any rebuttal or further comment? Thank you. So at this point, we will close the public hearing and open it up for questions from the council.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I think when I was looking at both proposals, for me, what stood out was the difference in lot sizes between the two properties. And I think that one being 3 times the size of the other. And I appreciated the community involvement and the hearing, the public hearing comments from both parties. Even though they're not in agreement with each other, I think both all of the comments agree that they don't want more development in their neighborhood, and the comments reflect that for both sides. And so to me, it seemed the burden of supporting the total number of units between these two properties was falling too much on the smaller property. So therefore that prompts where I stood on this. So I felt I need to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a clarifying question on that? So I'm looking at page 13 of 16 or page 109 of our packet, the criteria for review. Which criteria, I guess, would you say your comment is directed towards? Just because I want to make sure I fully consider all of these in light of what the hearing examiner said. And if there's a reason that one of these criteria is not met, I would be very interested in that.
I would say that at this point you would have to approve this one. So I don't know that I can't find what you're.
And I think I jumped the gun there on Councilmember McManus. So if you want to look at those for a sec.
What page number? Was
it's 13 of 16 on this agenda item, or page 109 of the packet. And it's the criteria for review. Councilmember McManus.
Yeah, just a clarification question. So on page 98 of 184, Mr. Larson states that it would convert it and it would be a minimum of at least 72 to 72 units, 70 to 72 units. Can that be amended to a lower amount at the time of the site development? Is that a city law, state law?
It would be inconsistent with the development agreement, and the proposal was to transfer the density to make the one site compliant. So I don't think that would be consistent to put a new requirement on top of it at this point.
But we would still be, each property still has to go through a review with traffic, SEPA, all that stuff, correct? Before it's
That's correct.
developed. So we would have an opportunity to either approve or deny both those developments based on what is put forth. And my concern is,
It won't be the city council's decision to review and approve any future development applications.
okay,
It would fall under the permit department, correct?
That is correct.
Because they haven't pulled permits yet. They're looking to swap the zoning, but the permits and plans and everything involved with doing this, as you mentioned, from traffic studies to, I would imagine, stormwater and all of that, they still need to go through all that process and get those permits approved.
That is correct.
Councilmember McManus, are you suggesting that the city impose a different requirement, or you're worried that the developer could make a change in the plans as part of the application process?
both, right? Because
Okay.
it says here that they, at least 70 to 72 units, depending on the type of units, they could add additional units if consistent with municipal code. That tells me they could put 100 units there, and that's a concern from a traffic standpoint. So I just want to know, if the traffic study's done, do they pay attention to it? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That could be potentially 140 vehicles on South Lake Stevens Road. That's a lot for that road. It's pretty small. That's the concern.
I can answer your question. In my opinion, the amendment does not serve to advance the public welfare because it disproportionately puts the burden on a smaller property to absorb the total now 72 units on 3 acres and versus 65 on 9 acres, whereas before you had 100 on 9 acres and 32 on the 3 acres. So this is in my opinion, not in serving to advance the welfare for at least the people around the smaller end the zone there.
Yeah.
So
It's a
thank
tough
you.
call because one neighborhood, yeah, I agree with comments made by citizens that you want to keep it consistent and keep it as a more of a single family neighborhood as it's kind of designed now. But at what cost to the other property?
Councilwoman Edwards.
Yeah, so I spent hours looking over all of this stuff and I had the same initial concern. But what I ended up coming to, I guess, is, we here in Lake Stevens have had an abundance of single family homes packed in like sardines. The original zoning would have had 103 houses, single family homes in that Ripperger development. For the Dawson, we're talking about multifamily residences. So this is apartments, condos, much higher, more compact density. So I took that into consideration when looking at the lot sizes. And I think that it would be more detrimental, in my opinion, to have 103 homes versus 64 than to have 70 apartments instead of 28 townhomes. So I just wanted to put that information out there.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? This is of Director Wright. If this is approved, will there be additional comments from the public and the neighborhood's input as it moves forward?
There will be an opportunity for the public to comment on both proposals according to the municipal code, whether through notice of application or Environmental Policy Act review.
I'll just say, I wasn't in favor of the original developer agreement when it came to council in December. But given that it did pass, I think that we're in a situation in our city where we do need additional multifamily options. We need options that are affordable to a broader range of folks in our community. And we've heard multiple times from different neighborhoods that they don't want multifamily housing in their neighborhood. And it has to go somewhere in our city. And we need to expand the diversity of housing that we have to offer to our community members and their kids and their parents. And so while I would agree with the public comment and I would agree with comments from my fellow council members, it's not ideal. I personally feel like this is something that I'll be moving forward on and I'll be voting yes for. Thank you.
Russ, if I could ask a historic question, because I'm trying to remember as much as I can about when we did propose or did pass or approve, sorry, that agreement. If I recall, the situation was effectively, if we didn't approve it, it was somehow through some mechanism, it was going to happen anyway. But if we did approve the agreement, we got, I think it was a traffic study paid for out of it or some kind of improvement. And maybe I'm mixing up the projects in my head, but I thought there was something to the effect of if we did it, we got a benefit. If we didn't, it was going to happen anyway, and we didn't get the benefit. Does that ring a bell?
So I think what you're referring to is there were proposals for two different types of land use applications, one, a single family, one, a multifamily, and there was going to be traffic impact. It did create a discussion about concurrency on South Lake Stevens Road, which did allow the city through another process to have our consultant reconcile the impacts on traffic, looking at both scenarios. So that has been accomplished already, which is was described also in this, that, that would be a future action. So that action has occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 1217 for the Dawson rezone.
I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Next item on our agenda is action item 8A, a funding request regarding music in the park, and I will pass it over to Director Garceau.
Thank you, Sarah Garceau, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here to facilitate the request from an external event, Music in the Park, which is held by the Lake Stevens Arts and Parks Foundation. They do have representation tonight, and I'll have her take the mic in just a moment to give you guys an overview and a little bit more information. Music in the Park is not new. It's been around in Lake Stevens for a few years. Specifically in 2024 as well as 2025, there was $5,000 in the budget to help support the event. This last year, weren't sure that they were going to continue holding the event, and it was not requested as part of this year's budget, and therefore there is no money. With that, we're bringing the request forward now as the Arts and Parks Foundation has decided to have music in the parks for 2026. They will be having 5 different nights right here in North Cove Park. It'll be on the same nights as Farmers Market on Tuesdays, starting at 5:30 and ending at 7:30. Even though they start off coinciding, they are 2 separate events and they do have extended hours past the market. With that, this year, even though it was $5,000 in the past, they are requesting $2,500 for this year. If approved tonight, that would need to come back in a supplemental budget in order to get that paid. I'll go ahead and invite Kate McKenzie up to the microphone to represent the Arts and Parks Foundation.
Welcome, Kate. Thank you.
Hello, council. Thank you for having me. I'm Kate McKenzie, and I sit on the board of the Lake Stevens Arts and Parks Foundation, and I'm also the chair of the Music in the Park Committee. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak tonight. For those of you who are new on the council, I'd like to provide a little bit of background. Music in the Park is a free outdoor summer concert series held right here in North Cove Park. It's organized by the Lake Stevens Arts and Parks Foundation, and it features a variety of local and regional musical ensembles. It's completely free to attend, and it's open to the entire community. The series runs 5 weeks during July and August, and in that short time, we're able to build quite a lot of momentum. It's something that our community has come to expect and look forward to every summer, and that is why we would like to continue it this year. From the beginning, Music in the Park has been held in partnership with the Farmers Market and the City of Lake Stevens, and we're proud to continue those partnerships this year. The market, even though it's under new management with the Chamber of Commerce, we already have a strong relationship with them, and they are very excited about this collaboration, and we believe this pairing continues to be a very natural fit for us. At the heart of this series is the Lake Stevens Community Band. This is an ensemble that is made up of your neighbors. We have many local musicians here who are extremely talented and are eager to volunteer their time to bring Lake Stevens live music every summer. The community band consistently draws some of our largest audience numbers for the season, and they are the cornerstone of what makes Music in the Park a uniquely Lake Stevens tradition. This year, Music in the Park actually will have a special meeting because we are honored to have already received a small grant from the Washington State Arts Commission to fund the Lake Stevens Community Band's participation as part of their statewide America 250 celebration. As we do every year, we will honor our veterans and our active duty military members at our summer concerts. And this year, that recognition will be even more meaningful in the context of that anniversary. And we're proud to bring that celebration home to Lake Stevens. The City of Lake Stevens has generously supported the Music in the Park every year, and that partnership has been essential to make this free event possible. Like Sarah said, last year, the city contributed $4,000 in cash funding in addition to valuable in-kind support from the Parks and Recreation team, and that support made a huge difference, and we're deeply grateful for it. This year, we found ways to reduce our costs without compromising the event or audience experience. We're requesting only $2,500 from city funding for this season, which is deliberately less than prior years. We're still anticipating strong attendance, drawing community members from not only Lake Stevens, but also neighboring communities like Monroe and Marysville. That means more people will be in our park. There will be more customers at the farmers market and more visitors supporting our local businesses downtown. We want to sincerely thank Sarah and the entire Parks and Recreation team, not only for their help for bringing this request to you guys, the council, but for the years of in-kind support they provided in making our event successful. This partnership means the world to us. So in closing, Lake Stevens Music in the Park is a 5-week summer tradition that brings our community together, celebrates local talent, and it honors those who have served. And this year will help us to join the nation's American 250 celebration. And your continued financial support will make all of this possible. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions, and I also have a copy of our budget available if you.
Thank you so much. The most important question, now that you're going to be playing on Tuesdays and we have council on Tuesday nights, will we be able to hear the music in here during council?
Put our dates on your summer recess.
Oh, okay. That's even better.
Go.
Even better.
So we're gonna go.
All right. Right. Any questions from council for either, it sounds like either Kate or for Sarah.
I have more of a comment than a question. First of all, I appreciate that you've obviously taken our city budget into consideration. You put forth the effort to search for and acquire a grant. It looks like you've got other support in here as well. It looks as if we saved about $1,000 last year because of the weather, which is so unpredictable, even in the summer. And I've attended Music in the Park many times. And what gives me goosebumps because what I see is I see families with their lawn chairs and their blankets and their picnic baskets. And, you know, they're all out there enjoying this free family event that your volunteers put together. The hardest, probably the biggest challenge for them is parking and walking to the event. You'll stand there and watch as kids are doing cartwheels on the lawn and everyone's just enjoying themselves and toddlers are waddling around. And the community band is such a huge, huge group of our community. And so I want to say thank you for all the efforts you've put into it. Thank you for considering. You've probably heard numerous times about our concerns and about us tightening the belt on our budget. You know, working with Sarah in the Parks Department, you have gone above and beyond and are asking for half of what you received last year. And I fully support this. And I want to thank you for taking the time and sharing your excitement and your exuberance and everything that you've done to try and make this possible again this year.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for Kate or for Sarah?
I have a couple of questions. What happens to Music in the Park if we don't approve it? What would you plan to do? How would you still execute it? What would look different?
We do have, sustained support over the years from a couple of business sponsorships. So we'll be going back to them and asking. The community band plays completely free. And so we're, the money that goes towards that helps pay for getting our sound equipment there and our percussion equipment there. And in the very beginning, when we had no financial backing, we loved that. My husband and I, my husband's the conductor, and Jim, the three of us loved it all ourselves. And it was tough, and we did multiple trips in our back of the SUV, but we would do it again probably. Because the community band, like you said, it's a big group. We have about 50 people. And so not only is our service to the audience members who watch, but it's to those 50 players who want and need a place to perform locally.
Kate, is it also the community band that plays at Winterfest?
Yes.
Yeah, so they do multiple events throughout the year.
Yeah, we do play at Winterfest. We also have absorbed or created a youth jazz band. So a lot of the kids from the high school who are in the jazz band and don't get to play in the summer because of the school program have started their own program under my husband and I's advice, and the Lake Stevens Arts and Parks Foundation has taken them under our umbrella as well. So that is giving, I think there are about 30 local youths in a park doing something cool and productive and not something that people are complaining about in the community page. So yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up to my question? So the packet that we had talked about filling some gaps in the schedule with hired bands.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that, and what are we paying a hired band versus, you're saying the community band's playing for free, which is great. So
we are going to, we're in the process of trying to schedule other community bands from the Monroe Community Band, and there's a Marysville Jazz Band, also a Caballero Jazz Band, and we were talking about giving a small stipend just to cover their travel to get here.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why it's a less amount this year.
So this isn't a KISS comeback tour, I'm not saying actually KISS, but some local group trying to put on a good show. This is pulling other community bands from other cities.
And that's what we're hoping, and then they'll bring in their big, large groups as well and their families, and then they get to experience the park too.
Thank you for clarifying.
I have a quick question about the jazz band from the high school. Is Mr. Prof going to be involved with that as well?
Yeah, he came last year.
And will they be able to qualify for community service by providing this as well? So I know for their senior year, they have to do a set number of hours of community service. So this could count towards their community service.
Yep, and all the kids that are in our community band too, from what I've been told, is that band kids don't need community service. But yes, they're all available because the Arts Parks is a nonprofit.
That's great.
Any additional questions?
Just for the record, Music in the Park in the summer is the only time I can get my teenage kids to come hang out with me at the park. So it's important.
right there.
It's
Right,
important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I did have one question for Sarah, just so kind of getting shades of our Aquafest discussion here. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So when you are requesting an approval, are you looking for a formal vote from us tonight to approve the $2,500?
Correct.
Okay.
This is under action, so it would require a motion to pass this, and then if it is passed, it would come back on supplemental budget the next round, not tonight, back to you all.
Come on, Matt.
Right. And then that would be approved in a separate vote. Okay, just wanted to kind of level set so there's no more surprises with budgetary policy.
The back end would be reimbursed per night, so like last year, if something happens where one's weathered out and it isn't rescheduled, then it would be the total of $500 per night for a maximum of $2,500.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to approve a 2,500 cash contribution to support the 2026 Music in the Park series.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just have a comment. I'm in favor of this and I don't want to haggle over $2,500. I just, per your comment, Councilmember Donahue, about we had something for Aquafest. We've had the food bank and the trees thing. It would be nice if we got all these all at the same time. So as we look at budget for next year, I think we need to be very conscientious to try and identify all of these types of things all at once so that we can look at them collectively. Because individually, they're all very worthy causes and any number of people could come forward with additional very worthy causes next week, the following weeks. And so they add up and we've just got to be cautious. So.
I would agree with that. And Sarah, I just want to double check that I read this correctly and that this was part of the budget, but because it got canceled one year, it was not then included in the budget going forward. So we're approving a one-off now. And then to Councilmember Packard's comment, this would be something we'd integrate into the budget going forward.
How it worked in 2024 and 2025 is that request did come in the fall during budget process. And so the mayor included it in his budget, which then advanced to council.
Okay.
Yes, in this case, the status was not moving forward in fall, so the mayor did not include it in his budget and it didn't come forward. So I hear what you're saying, try to collect all these. We'll certainly put notice out to all of the events that we know about. But it will be hard when we don't know about events and they come forward. It'll just have to be established that maybe council isn't willing to do supplemental budget and approve them along the way. And that's certainly within your ability.
Understood. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to discussion items, we have a budget amendment discussion item, ordinance 1219, to talk about tonight, and Matthew Heist is going to lead us through that conversation.
All right, thank you, council. Give me a moment here. Oh. It did just say. Try that again here. Let's see. There we go. To the right one this time. All right. Thank you. Actually, tonight's kind of a special night for anybody that's an accountant here. Today is the National Accounting Day. So I just want to take a moment to recognize that for us accountants. Yes, thank you. So here, oops, I'm a little, okay. So this is the 2026 budget amendment number 1 here. We are going to just go through this and we'll see, hopefully I'll try to go through this, I know quickly here. I know in your packets, we had some information, some details in there. So I may not cover every single line item, but if there are specific ones you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to point out ones that there might be some questions. But here we are. This is our budget amendment summary here. This is just overall. This is what our budgeted beginning balance at the top line there. At the top, and what our budgeted resources, budget expenditures, and what our budgeted ending balance was at that time. Down below there is what the changes are to each of those line items. Just so you know that beginning balances are estimated during the budget process by attempting to project the receipts and expenditures remaining throughout the year, which include capital projects. Once 2025 year-end actuals are known, that's when we are able to figure out what the true 2026 beginning balance is, and therefore we correct them. So overall, the beginning balance increased by 7.9 million and our ending balance is expected to end at about 4.6 million more than originally anticipated. The majority of the resources and expenditures are related to ongoing capital projects, which is what you will see. I just do want to point out too, as we do see that budgeted ending balance ultimately increases. We are not bringing forward. There's a roll forward that we have. We're not bringing forward every single budget line item from prior years for that. So I just kind of wanted to point that out as you see, as that 4.5 ending balances can kind of signify that there are savings. We don't go line by line item of what our savings are necessarily, but this does show that there's savings from prior years there for that. So here is the budget amendment changes for all the funds. The highlighted blue ones are our primary funds that we have in the for there. The major operating funds, so yeah, those are highlighted. And then our general fund ending balance is set to or has increased about $1 million. I'll go more into detail in the next slide. The streets ending balance increased by about 588,000 and the stormwater increased by about 63,000. Overall, the ending balance, as I mentioned, increased about 4.59 million. And then also, just to mention, just reiterate that again, the beginning balances were based on estimated during the budget process as of fiscal year 2025, had not concluded at that time. So you do see a negative change in some of those beginning balances. That's based on the estimated ending balance, not negative budget. So we did spend within the budget, and so those negatives do not indicate that we spent over budget. Just want to point that out to you if you may have questions on that. So here, this is our general fund. It's actually broken out into 5 different funds that we have. And the purpose for that is because for reporting and budget purposes, we are only allowed one general fund. So all of the funds listed here are just managerial and are rolled up into one fund. So this slide lists the managerial fund separately and just helps us understand, or helps you understand the changes. And when we separate out the general fund operating ending balance is 625,000, and that's mainly personnel related savings. The permit fund is used to accumulate revenues received from building and land use permits, which are then restricted to be used for permit operating expenses. The sub-fund ending balance increased 151 for the permitting. That's 003 for there, again, mainly due to personnel savings. We receive all lease revenues in the commercial rental fund to be used to receive for the maintenance of those buildings and also pay portions of the bond debt. This fund expenses increase as the fund receives a portion of the Public Works Facility Division's staffing costs. A large portion of these staffing costs will be then redistributed to the general operating fund once the city hall relocates to the new building, as a proportion of commercial rental facilities of the facilities will decrease. And then you can see here that we did receive a grant funding in 2026 for the PD HVAC system, which was done in prior years. And that's what in 005, that's what you see those resources are. That project is done and most of the additional expenditures is for the ongoing HVAC project at the actual commercial buildings, not the police station there. All right. So the next couple slides, I'm just going to just looking at revenues or resources that we are receiving, and they're come from different types of categories. You will see these in later slides, but I just kind of want to segregate these just to show as our grant revenues. These are all the grant revenues that we expect to be receiving. So some of them have been approved during this fiscal year. As you see that we have the Commerce Grant for the Salmonoid Basin and the Department of Homeland Security grants for IT related purposes grants. We had 2 grants that are being reduced. That's the Commerce for Bayview and the RCO for Frontier Heights, because we received the grant funding at the end of 2025 when we were expecting to receive them in 2026. So we received those a little early. We are also are rolling forward other just various grants remaining from the prior year, and then the corresponding expenditure budgets for these projects and grants were included in the adopted budget. And as grant revenues, if you're not familiar, is that usually that's on a reimbursement basis. So when we receive grant funding, it's typically for us to be spending money. So you will see corresponding expenses related to that or there. So just some other revenues that we have. We do have, and here's the rest of those here. We do have anticipated sale of property for about $3 million. I do want to just point out that I got some clarification with that as well. We are working with an interested party right now on that particular property sale, but it probably won't finalize, and we probably won't receive that revenue until 2027. So that will just continue to carry forward until that property is finally sells. And just want to be upfront with that about that. We also have the Public Works Trust Fund loan, which is similar to a grant. That's the $911,000. We only draw down on the loan after we submit reimbursement. So we started to draw down on that loan in 2026. And the reason we would use a Public Works Trust Fund loan is it's significantly reduced interest rates. And that interest rate for that particular loan is at 0.86% for that. So as you see, that's a lot lower interest rate that we are paying down on that. And then, so project retainage, these are restricted amounts. So when you see that retainage, we do receive that, or we keep that for contractors. And by the end of the project, when they get the proper authorizations, we do have to pay that money back to the contractors. And then also due to sewer rate increases, we do anticipate additional $300,000 in sewer utility tax. Sewer district pays, and also the sewer district also pays the city half the utilities for the use of the decant facility. And we anticipate receiving additional $4,500 in reimbursements of shared costs from the district. And those are just, and I know that I've had questions too about what about with the $300,000 in the sewer utility tax. Those are what we're just looking at is what the anticipated revenues will be based off of what the adopted rates that council has approved. So if there's ever any question on changing that, that would probably be more appropriate to discuss during the actual budget portion of that. So, too. So right here we have the roll forward summary. Right here. So just give you a quick oversight. Roll forwards or requests are for reappropriations of remaining budget from the prior year for continuing projects. So examples include revenues that are typically grants originally expected to be received in 2025, but are now expected to be collected in 2026. Purchase or work performed in 2025, but not paid until 2026. And then ongoing capital and operational projects as well. So going into the details of that, these are all of our roll forward for the operations specifically. You'll see here that the notes will give you details of the purpose of the rolling forward. The funds are for, and so starting off, like you see there's in 2025, finance started work reviewing its current finance software and looking into whether to update its software with the new software or building on the current software. So this roll forward allows us to continue those efforts and potentially using consulting to work to assist in determining the best course of action with ERP systems and ERP software for our financial systems.
Matthew, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Give me 1 minute. It's 7:59. We're going to need a motion to extend our meeting. I understand we need about 10 minutes for the city department report and 15 minutes for executive session, plus we have council business. So I'd like to recommend an extension until 8:30, if someone could make a motion.
I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to 8:30.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll extend the meeting till 8:30. Matthew, please continue.
Okay, so here there's, and then you can kind of see that there are, over there under the project, it says what it's for, but then there's notes that's a little bit more specific as well. So you do see, for example, the parks operations, you see 10,995, and that's to help us wrap up with the pros plan, which I think that they presented a few council meetings ago. They've finished that up in 2026, so rolling forward that amount to cover those expenses. There's also some. You see some when you see LE, that's law enforcement. You see some minor equipment, 10,440 for the accreditation private grant. They receive granting for their accreditation, and so they have to spend that money on. So when we receive that, we have to get also approval to spend that money. So that's what that is, and same with the donation funds right below that. The uniform clothing for the law enforcement, those are things that from prior year that they scheduled out for officers to be hired. As you know, that we do have those vacancies still going. And so we want to be able to roll forward those amounts to continue to be able to pay or to be able to have the proper clothing for our police officers when we do hire them. We also, there's the CJT grant remaining as well, and then the janitorial allocation to the law enforcement facilities for that. And then we have, and as you kind of, so those are just examples there. And then we have, like you see, the 69,000 for the gateway sign that was purchased in 2025, but it wasn't invoiced until 2026. So as according to accounting standards, we have to, since it was paid in 2026, we have to roll that forward to show that it was paid in 2026 as well. So those are some operations that we have. Here are the roll forwards for the capital projects. I won't go through all of these capital projects, but these are just projects that have started. As you can see in the type there row in the middle, you'll see some green, which shows those are the revenues that we are receiving, and those are some of those grants that I had already, most of them are grants, some of them are some of the other revenues as well that we anticipate on receiving for these specific projects. And so since we haven't completed them, we're rolling forward those capital projects. I guess I'll stop right there. To any questions on that?
Just one question. Can you talk about the 2.2 for the historical museum? The budgeted versus the total. The budgeted shows 0. Is that a case of where we're spending and?
I'm sorry.
So in the capital
Lines.
projects, I think it's kind of halfway down in the facility. There's an expenditure. The budgeted is 0, shows 0, but the amended is 2.2. So the new budget is 2.2 as an expenditure. How does that? I'm assuming it was. Yes.
Oh, let me see here.
Do you have the page number of the packet that's
It's
on?
the one that,
Yeah,
Oh, on the screen.
181 in the packet.
yeah, the 180. Yeah,
So about halfway down.
let me see.
I guess that's the
Second
biggest
line.
one that I see. I just want to.
Mm. Yeah, so I think so a lot too is like if it was budgeted is that it was one of those ones where we had anticipated on starting that in 2026. And or sorry, we anticipate starting in 2025. And so we hadn't yet rolled forward. We were kind of waiting to see where that would start before we actually kind of rolled forward that budget. So when you see that budgeted, that means what we had kind of at the beginning of the year, knowing that we were going to be rolling forward these projects.
So that would be part of the addition to the beginning balance of the 7.9, the 2.2 would be part of that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this point?
So, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then these ones are just represent council approved items that we've brought to council this last year. And that we must bring these items as budget amendments. So right here, you will see, as you do see, I would point out with OpenGov, this is one that it technically, if you see that there will be no additional cost to that, but because we are taking money from the different funds and working with that from the different areas, is that we have to transfer that money or how those costs are being paid out. And so since we do approve by the fund level, that's where we have to get approval for that as well. So that does negate itself to zero, as I said again, and there's a lot going on right there, but that's because a lot of how the fund accounting works for that. So we have that. You do see that you have the grant revenues and the expenditures for the IT operating supplies as well, and then the public defender. Here's one place where we brought that to council, and we had budgeted more than what we anticipated, and so what was negotiated, and that was one that did increase, but because we had budgeted that, we're actually reducing that by 21,000 as well. And then here, I just have the projects of what had been approved, and that's just the stormwater Salmonid Basin comp plan as well, there with the grant and then the expenses along with that. Other things that the council had approved is the org chart here. And this is one I did send out an email on Monday, about there is an omission, and I apologize for that, but that is part of, and that was with the Parks Department of the Revenue Developments, the Parks Planning and Development Coordinator to the Parks Planning and a reclass from that position to the Parks Planning and Development Manager. But also the other one was that we removed the revenue development specialist from the org chart. Public Works Department removed the city engineer and senior civil engineer and added a deputy public works director and capital projects coordinator. And then the admin, which is under HR department, is added management analyst. On the next page here, you see this is the salary schedule amendment here. In your packet, you will see the monthly salary, and here I'm showing the annual salary of those right there. The red ones are ones that, as I had mentioned, we are keeping them on the salary schedule until 2027, and then those red ones will be removed from the salary schedule. And then the bold ones there are the ones that we have added as well. Any questions with that? Okay. And then these are just transfer summary right here. So these are ones that are for just reallocating approved amounts from one fund to another and ensure the costs are reflected in the correct fund. You see, I highlighted ones that are related to each other. We have the vehicle replacement. So we have the vehicle lease for the building supervisor and the building for the new traffic engineer. Those we're moving funds around to be able to pay that through the fund, there. So we put them in the internal service funds is where we're putting those costs for that. And then the projects, we also have, there's the North Cove Marina feasibility right there. And those are not, some of those costs were not eligible for the was it 302? And so we moved those costs to the 304 as well. And then the adjustment summary, these are just adjustments that we've, that throughout the year, they are generally made to operating lines due to changes in cost estimates. And as you'll see, I did color coordinate these. The blue ones are items that align with the police department. And then you have, so all those blue ones there, we had change it. So according to the collective bargaining agreement for the police, they are allowed to cash out their holiday pay. And we've seen an increase in police officers using and paying that out. So we've increased that budget as well. And then jail services as well has just continued to go up. We need to amend that budget. The opioid settlement, these are restricted funds that we get. I think I discussed this funding that we get. So we have to get approval for how we spend that, but those are restricted specifically for specific purposes. And so we're asking for budget to have those budgeted in our budget to be able to pay for some of those items that are eligible for the opioid settlement as well. There's some reductions in some grants funding, the WCIA grant funding, so the expenditures are reduced as well. And then we have the park storm drainage. So as you see in the green there, we have to charge our internal service funds, or we have to charge our funds stormwater fees. And so these are just the adjustments that we ended up after doing our analysis of how we need to readjust those fees to our own funds there. And then I know that we talked about the utility sewer district amounts as well for the revenues. And those are there in the tannish orange colors there as well. So any questions on the operations for the adjustment details there? And then these are just projects for the adjustments here. Again, a lot of them are retainage. You see those top couple of them are anticipated retainage we're going to be holding for projects. So we have to have the revenues and then expenditures as well on that side for there. And then adjustments for tree replacements expenditures, we're required to have tree replacement, and we have those budget, or we have those in our we have line items specifically as we collect those revenues during the permitting process. We do have to use those for specific projects and replacing the trees, and so that's and this is increasing those for there as well. And then for the marine units, that I think that's the North Cove dock, if I'm not right, where the fire department is contributing some costs to that as well. It's Davies, sorry, Davies, not North Cove. That's Davies. Thank you, Sarah. And that's pretty much it, what we have. So next steps is that we have our questions or comments with the budget. I know there's a lot of different items in there. And then after tonight, this is just discussion. We'll bring to council for approval next week, and depending on council on where you guys, whether that's either on consent or that we bring that back as an action item, that's up to you as council.
And we'll send this presentation out to all of you after tonight. So you've got it.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions?
Thank you. That was very thorough.
Good job, man.
Yeah, as a new council member, having these supplemental budget overview, this is the first one that I've seen. And so this is really helpful to see. It makes it more clear when we hear things in budget discussions that says, well, historically, this comes back later. Well, now we're seeing it. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
I'll just piggyback on that. I think in my years up here, when we see the supplemental budget, we typically, if not always, since I've been here, have seen an adjustment adding money to the budget. And I think that's because our finance staff does a really great job being pretty conservative about expenditures and forecasting. And so I just want to say how much we appreciate that conservative approach. It's certainly, I would assume, much easier to see a supplemental budget that adds a little money versus that takes away a little money. So, and just also to council, typically this discussion is loaded with a lot of information. And if there aren't a lot of questions or discussion, then it usually does come back on consent. So if folks are comfortable with that, I think we can give that direction to staff. If you always have the chance to move it off of consent between now and then if you come up with additional questions.
I'm good with it being on consent.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate the information. We'll move into the city department report. Yes, city department report. Sarah's going to talk to us about park management in HOA areas.
All right, round two for me talking about park properties. Well, one of the things I want to correct immediately in this report is the opening sentence reference 11 properties. There was a mistake in our spreadsheet, and that is actually 10 properties. The spreadsheet attached to the staff report is correct. It does show the 10 properties that are affected. As many of you know, the Parks Department was officially formed in August 2022. Before then, the field was ran by Public Works employees and had a division of parks that was only formed a couple years prior. Prior to that, even there was only one person that was actually dedicated to parks. Otherwise, it would be somebody from the other divisions. And then from the admin side, it was from the planning and community development department. So as we formed parks, we went through all the steps of inventorying our properties, walking every inch of them, talking to staff about what we actively manage. And what was discovered at that time is we had these 10 properties that are owned by the city, but that our staff had not actively managed historically. How that works is as the properties were developed, when we went through the official plat maps and the developer created the HOA, those properties were dedicated to the city for public use or open space or stormwater. And it was agreed with that plat map that they would be dedicated to the city for public use. And that is how they got transferred for ownership. A lot of this occurred back in 1990s and that era, so not incredibly long ago, but we were still a small city and needing to meet requirements with open space and the growth, manage all the growth that was occurring. After that, the HOAs really were the ones that maintained these. The city wasn't mowing them. We weren't removing trash. We weren't actively inspecting parks or playgrounds or fixing amenities as they needed to. Of course, the properties were newer, so they didn't need a lot of fixing or repair. As they aged and as time went on, there were a few years where a mayor or a department head of that time would have a public request comes in that says, hey, our property needs XYZ. A lot of those requests were denied. Periodically, a staff member would be sent out to the property to take care of something, especially if it was a high safety risk. And so that it kind of began where staff were sporadically responding to these, but since it wasn't an active management, at the formation of our department, we deemed all of these HOA managed areas. Requests continually came in both before the department was developed and afterwards to say, hey, we are an HOA. We really don't know about maintaining public parks, and it can be expensive to repair certain things. The city held that they needed to manage them, but as time went on, we discovered that there is no real way for the city to require them to maintain these properties. And so today, as some locations are not being mowed or some amenities are not being fixed, the city has removed playgrounds. The most recent one, which wasn't corrected on your spreadsheet attached to this report, was the Greenwood Village 4th Street. It was a wooden playground, and we responded to a public notice that came in showing that one of the boards off the wooden playground had fell into the ground. And so as we went to it, we knew this was a playground we were watching the last 2 or 3 years of its life. It's not something that we could continue to repair. So it was taken out of service. When the city owns property, we need to make sure that they are safe. And we have something called recreational immunity in Washington state and states across America. And what that states is if your lands are open and free to the public, and you're inspecting them, taking care of any risk, repairing these items, we're covered by recreational immunity, meaning we are not responsible for a lawsuit if somebody's walking in the park and gets hurt because they were recreating. However, if these liabilities are there and we're not fixing them, the city takes on a huge amount of risk. I recently spoke to our representative from our insurance company and reached out to legal counsel. I also then updated our risk manager. The city can no longer not maintain these properties. We need to take them under our belt to reduce our risk and take care of liability. More importantly, we never actually want anybody to get hurt on our land. These are our residents. So with this, this week, our staff are going to visit all of the locations. If something is broken, they will take it out of service or repair it if they're able to. We are going to provide the most basic level of service by removing trash, cutting grass that needs to be cut, and taking care of anything that is a hazard on that property. With this, I'm going to bring it back to council in a few weeks so that we can deep dive into each of these locations. I'll categorize them into what type of service level they should receive. Some of these are just grass parcels. So the smallest one is maybe 1/10 of an acre, really, really small. If not even smaller than that. I didn't include the acreage on here. Other ones do have a playground that are open to the public. When I bring that back to council, we can discuss any additional service levels or desires. Replacing playgrounds are not in the capital budget. That is not something we will be taking on unless we plan for it in the future. We'll also then update our operations and maintenance manual to include these and get that updated. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
Can you clarify on the chart that you gave us what the A's and D's are for in the walking trail column?
Yes, I apologize. I didn't put the key down. That is an asphalt or a dirt trail.
Got it. Thank
on
you.
the property.
I have a question for the parks that that belong to the city, but the HOA is still active. Can the HOA gather the money to pay the city for a playground replacement if they choose to?
So great question. A good example of that was Bryce Park. The Lake Stevens Woods HOA that was here today, when their playground failed, I think it was 2009, if my memory is correct, 2008. The city didn't have the funds to replace the playground and they wanted to maintain their playground. And so they did reimburse the city for the playground. We negotiated what that budget would be. We purchased it from Game Time, I believe, who is a professional playground company that provides those public playgrounds. And then from there, the city had a small cost as we had a volunteer day to install it and contributed a small amount to the fall material at the time. But the majority of it was paid by that HOA, and they have for years reimbursed the city for some small replacement parts that were needed.
Nice, thank you.
I just want to thank you for providing the history behind this. I received a call from a citizen last week on this subject, and they were going back and forth on so confusing as to whose responsibility it was. And so I just appreciate the clarification of the history and how we've moved forward.
Welcome.
Any additional questions?
Sarah, do you know if there are any more parks out there like that that we've not run into or discovered yet?
This is all of them.
This is all of them.
We have combed the property records. These are the ones that are owned by the city and in the parks jurisdiction. We have several other NGPA areas, open areas that we oversee. Those are really responsive when there's a hazard tree reported by a neighbor.
Okay, I know there's one on Meadow Drive that's like this weird lot that's a hill mostly. The kids use it for sledding in the winter, but there's a small playground on top of that. Is that already part of the park system for the city?
There are a lot of HOAs that still own their own land.
Okay.
And so when those come in, we certainly look at them, but we haven't discovered any new ones in the 3 years that I've been here. I also have a GIS layer that I personally combed in my first couple of months, spanning the aerial view to mark all properties. And so we have those marked as private playgrounds, public playgrounds.
Okay. Could they potentially try to become part of our system? If the HOA failed or didn't want to maintain them?
By default, no. They would be fully responsible for their own land. They could certainly not replace their amenities and just turn it into a grass lot or replace it with rock or other means. However, anybody could come and request to donate land to the city. And at that time, it would come forward for consideration and of course would go through the public process of the department, then the Parks Board, and then City Council.
Awesome. Thank you. I echo Councilmember Shipman's request that you did a great job. Thanks for the overview.
Thank you.
I have a question on that note for HOAs that have dissolved. So if they dissolved and there's no more HOA and the property is not owned by the, direct vicinity homeowners, what happens then?
As long as the property was originally owned by the HOA, it would be considered a shared interest parcel, and it is still linked to that original HOA, even though it was dissolved. The original covenants that were filed with a plat map at the time the location was developed are what exist. And so even though the HOA itself has dissolved and they're not taking dues, all of those homes are still financially responsible for upkeeping those, with the ownership still being in that shared parcel interest. That is something that code enforcement could follow up with if, for instance, there was overgrown grass.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. We will move now into council business.
Council President, I would like to make a motion that we forego council business, looking at the clock.
We have a motion on the floor. Is
I
there a
would second
second?
that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have one opposed. Motion passes.
Talk so bad.
We are foregoing council business for tonight. That moves us into executive session. Before we go into executive session, though, I understand 15 minutes is needed and we are scheduled to end at 8:30. So we will need another motion to extend.
Motion to extend the meeting to 8:35,
45.
8:45, sorry.
8:40. 8:40.
8:40.
Does that work? All right, motion. Second and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion passes. We're extending to 8:40. We move into executive session where we will be talking about property sale. There is no action to follow and we will need 15 minutes.
Oh, make a motion to extend the meeting to 8:45. That give us enough time?
8:50.
8:50?
Yeah.
Make a motion to extend the meeting to 8:50.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Yeah, check my minutes, make sure I got all this. Okay, city council is going back into executive session.
Gonna do anything until Nick says it's okay.
Councilmember Donahue is going to vote no on this, isn't he?
Can we make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have to ask Nick, I guess.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff.